In the Abrahamic faiths, ritual poise and general standing still in meditation and prayer seems to be the way to communicate with the other world, including with the Creator Himself. All is very still, but in Africa, it's very different. Ritual that you have just seen is a ritual called Zar. This ritual called Zar is practiced in Egypt, it's practiced in Ethiopia, Sudan, and other parts of the Middle East, which we will get to. In Ethiopia, we know that it goes back at least to the 1600s, as there is manuscripts that write about Zar. In fact, there are many manuscripts in Ethiopia that talk about the possession of spirits, and also they talk about alleviating oneself. These czars, which are also connected to other spirits called Bwart, also find themselves in these texts of Ethiopia. Typical to Africa, the way to engage with the afterworld is through dance. The ritual of dance is one of the things that goes back to ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, you can see at almost all times females engaged in all types of gestures of dance. These females, who could be possessed by spirits, are accompanied by clapping men. Now, this is the interesting thing about Zar. Zar, typically in Ethiopia, has men playing a drum or clapping, and then women dancing. These women are the main practitioners. They are the main people in this religion. Again, a sharp contrast to the Abrahamic religions, where the males run the show. Why Zar is practiced so widely within the corners of Northeast Africa and then the Middle East is something that is still being debated. One thing that we know is that Africans who have journeyed into the areas of places as far as Persia have sent a Zar there. To this day, it still has the same name, the same ritual, and it is practiced by the same type of people. By looking at these images, you could fool yourself into thinking that you are still in Ethiopia or Africa somewhere. But this is not true. This is a video taken from Iran. What it is showing here is a Zar ritual. Again, men playing a drum and women coming as the practitioners, ready to engage with the spirits. This again is something that is not seen around the world. Although Zar used to be an independent religion completely on its own, it has been mixed in many of these countries with the local religion of choice. So in Ethiopia, it has some mix with Christianity. In Egypt, it has some mix with Islam. And in Iran and other places like Yemen, and even places as close as Israel, we can see it taking place. It's safe to say that something that is so contrary to the Abrahamic faiths is not necessarily the most popular thing, but it exists and it is celebrated along these areas, especially since it's culturally tied to the African culture. The people who practice it, for the most part, are Africans, and these Africans who practice it, including Africans who are pale skinned in Egypt, remind us of the almost stubborn nature of the ancients' rituals. Many people who have studied Zar talk about its origin and where it came from. Some Ethiopians say that they got it from Yemen. This, of course, probably comes from the fact that a lot of things in Ethiopia they believe come from Yemen. But some scholars say that this is a typical African religion and that the way that it operates reminds them of rituals that can be seen in Chad, rituals that can be seen in Kenya, Tanzania, and all over the coasts. Something that people don't realize is that most Persian scholars who used to write from the 11th century onwards, who had full contact with Africans, used to write of many magical things that would happen within those areas, one including the possession of spirits. These stories entered the fictional retellings by Islamic peoples. This simple page of a book that we'll talk about later details several different areas of the world, including Rome, the Zanj areas, India, Iran, and the Middle East in general. And it talks about how far the people of Iran expanded and tried to communicate with people outside of their territories. It speaks of their magical tales, and some of them are similar to that of this, the Tsar. From the African observer, when we notice this tradition, it does not seem very foreign. As you can see here, these are four people who are involved in Tsar. The first one is from Egypt, and she is trying to heal a woman. This is where Tsar becomes all too familiar. The spirits or jinn that they talk about through the Islamic words hides its true nature. This is simply Ngoma by another name. What this is traditional healing. It has nothing to do with demons or evil spirits. The spirits that enter the people that cause people to be sick are said to be the same as those in other parts of Africa. As you can see, in other parts of Africa, you would heal this using Ngisi or other rituals that the Ngoma would use. The word Ngoma interestingly means drum. The second image, after the Egyptian woman dressed in blue, is from Ethiopia. And you can see there as well that the ritual is the same. The one at the top with the person covered up is from Iran, and it also shows a Tsar person healing someone. A lot of people associate this with demonic stuff, which of course is the result of Abrahamic faith saying any other religion outside of the Abrahamic religions is demonic. The one at the bottom is from Central Sudan. It too is Tsar. These are what I'm limiting it to because they have the name Tsar and they have the tradition and they show that historically they got it from the same place. But as I said, a lot of this religion comes from other places of the world, mainly in Africa. It is no surprise to me that the things they use to administer this are exactly the same that you would find in other rituals elsewhere. If we connect these concepts with a general understanding of religion within Africa, with some of the videos that I've shown you talking about the different religious aspects of Egypt and Africa in general, this makes too much sense. There are regional names for any and all of these people, but these names are merely modernizations in the same way that the general practice of ritual of the Amazigh in North Africa, which is typical again of dancing and all of those, the practitioner being a female. Remember the Islamics who said that they were what they called wise women inside of North Africa. These quote unquote wise women would be the healers of North Africa, again, mimicking this throughout the entire continent. Although most of these have to do with healing of diseases, it is not actually limited to this. I will link some videos that actually explain these czar in a better way, because these people, the females that are tasked with this, are brought problems of families as well. For example, people can come and give disputes and say, my brother has been possessed by some evil spirit who does not allow him to be fair with me, or my husband has been possessed by some spirit that does not allow him to love me like he used to, or any of those things can also be addressed. This makes sense, of course, as these people are not purely herbalists. From what I've seen, they don't just give you some spiritual answer to everything. In some cases, they act as therapists, merely just talking to the person and asking them what they have done. One thing that they try to do is to be objective in disputes, even challenging the person who came bringing the problem and asking them how do they know that it's a spirit and not just the nature of the person. To which a lot of them will answer that the person has changed and did not behave like this before. And of course, you can further interrogate this question and find out how long the person has been behaving in this way. But the question still remains, how can a tradition that started in Ethiopia end up in Egypt and almost seem ubiquitous with the culture? In my opinion, it is because there has always been this culture at the bottom of both the Egyptian and other peoples. If we read this short article, we can find out exactly what some scholars think about this czar. So the writers of this are Fahima Mianji and Youssef Simnani, and the heading is Czar Spirit Possession in Iran and African Countries, Group Distress, Culture Bound Syndrome, and Culture Concept of Distress. Czar is the term used to describe a form of spirit possession common in Northern African, Eastern African, and Middle Eastern societies. Although these regions share some cultural similarities arising from their history of slavery in these places, Czar varies in prevalence, clinical characteristics, and social context. Based on the selective review of the literature, this paper looks at the place of the spirit possession in both DSM 4 and DSM 5. It also examines how Czar is manifested in Iran and in African countries, including Sudan, Ethiopia, and Egypt, and it aims to provide practical information to mental health, clinical, so that they can be better understood how this culture concept is practiced by Iranians and Middle Easterners and African immigrants living near the Persian Gulf coast. Czar refers to a type of spirit, to the illness caused by those spirits who possess humans, and to the rituals needed to pacify those spirits. Czar cult is found throughout northern and eastern African countries such as Sudan, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Somalia, where it is called Sar, as well as the Middle Eastern countries such as Kuwait, Israel, and southern Iran. In these cultures, spirit possession is associated with dissociative episodes such as sudden changes in consciousness or identity that may include periods of shouting, banging, and head against the wall, laughing, singing, or crying. Possessed people may become apathetic or withdrawn, or may not be able to accomplish their usual responsibilities. So this is what I was talking about when I'm talking about the way they diagnose them, and they ask you like, how is the person behaving different that would make you think that this is happening? If you're interested in Czar, I can link this page and you can look it up yourself. There's about 4 pages of reading that you can do that tells you about the different names, the different ethnic versions of it, whether they're from Sudan or not. But this is the part that's most interesting to me. Similarity in names of this spirit possession suggests that many of the cults are historically related, although evidence has not directly addressed this claim. For example, in Chad, there is a Libyan Shaitan among the Digo of the South Kenya coast. There is Shaitani, and among the Seguju Swahili speakers in Tanzania, there is Shetani. Moreover, the form of Masibe, spirit possession among the Tonga of Zambia, not to be mistaken with the Tonga in Polynesia, by the way, resembles the Sudanese Zar. The Bori in Nigeria and North Africa, Trumba and Petros in Mayotte, Comoros Islands, Saka or Pepo among the Wataita of Kenya, Tukuka among the Ndembu of Zambia, Holi among the Songhai, and Jnun Kurin activities, Iamad Shah in Morocco, Sudanese and West African pilgrims in and en route to Mecca have been seen to participate in each other's spirit rituals. For those of you that are not too curious and find this scary, don't be. It's a minority religion and it is hardly practiced at all. For those of you who are not, this reminds you that everyone in Africa, including the people in North Africa, can see deep similarities between the nations of Africa and how they practice their rituals. It doesn't matter exactly where they started. You can see that there is still a giant connection, linguistically and realistically. Thank you very much.